the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Tuesday, June 12th. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, the official podcast of thefantasyfootballfanatics.com. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined by Jason Cabrera. Jason, what's up, buddy? What's
quiet
up?
Again. Why is it always quiet? It's too quiet around here.
Because we're down one member of the show who's had not been here a lot lately. So, yeah, I guess we should really start. We were saying we're going to make up stories about where he is, but I, yet again, have come unprepared.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Details.
CJ the no-show Hickman. That's what we're going. That's what we're going with from now
CJ
on.
the no-show Hickman. That's appropriate. I like it. All right. Anyway, moving on. Today we have an amazing show for you guys. We are going to be talking about early mid-round values. Now, we say early because, of course, this will change quite a bit between now and about mid-June to when you're drafting in mid to late August. So we'll revisit this topic again later down the line. But for now, we wanted to at least show up, talk to you about what's going on currently, and, of course, more than anything, if you are drafting right now, prepare you for what's ahead. So we're going to be getting to all of that. As always, make sure you guys subscribe wherever you're listening. We're a year-round podcast. Like, review, rate the show. Follow us on Patreon for bonus content and to support the show. Help us keep doing what we're doing. You know the whole spiel. So with that, let's get right into it. And we'll start with our top headlines from around the league. As per usual, it's Tuesday's show. So last night there was the NFL Top 100. So we saw numbers 30 through 21. Number 30 was LaShawn McCoy, running back out of Buffalo, 27 a year ago. So that's consistency. Matt Ryan was number 29, 10 a year ago. Dropped a little bit there, but that's to be expected. The Falcons' offense wasn't quite what it was in 2016. Chandler Jones, number 28, was 85 a year ago. Really moved up with a full-time role in Arizona. Defensive end, of course. Number 27, another Cardinal, Larry Fitzgerald, wide receiver. Now, he was 45 a year ago, so he moved up, getting more respect. And I think people are amazed that he's able to keep doing what he's doing at this age. But hey,
right.
As long as he keeps it up, I mean, future first ballot Hall of Famer, we all know this. So, moving right along, number 26, Cameron Jordan, defensive end out of New Orleans, unrated a year ago, finally cracking the list. Number 25, Cam Newton, quarterback out of Carolina, 44 a year ago. Moved up. Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, he had a really good year doing what he does, which is running the ball. So, that's what he does. So, respect, I guess. Number 24,
Sure.
Travis Kelce, tight end out of Kansas City, 26 a year ago. That's pretty darn consistent. Number 23, Patrick Peterson, cornerback out of Arizona, 19 a year ago. So, pretty consistent there. 22, A.J. Green, wide receiver out of Cincinnati, 17 a year ago. Pretty consistent. And then number 21, Bobby Wagner, linebacker out of Seattle, 39 a year ago. Moved up a little bit there. So, yeah, those are your numbers. And I mean, we usually deep dive on these things, but I think over the years we've just kind of accepted how much of a true, just like popularity contest this is. So I don't know how much there is to debate. So we'll just say that's where the people finished. Some are maybe higher than we think they should be. Some maybe a little bit lower. But in the end, it doesn't matter. This is by the players, for the players, and we're just bystanders. So, yeah, we'll move on. We have some running back news. Los Angeles Chargers offensive coordinator Ken Whisenhunt suggested that running back Melvin Gordon could be a bigger part of the passing game in 2018. Well, that's exciting. I mean, he has not gotten a massive workload in the running game in the past, or the passing game in the past as a running back, but already seeing a massive amount of touches, so I'm wondering if this means he's going to get less rushing attempts, if he's going to be involved more in the passing. I think that universally this will be accepted as a positive thing, and I think when it's all said and done, it will be, but it's something to think about because his usage is already pretty darn high, though not the most efficient running back in the league, as I am one to point out. CJ, obviously a much bigger fan than I am, and will often state that audibly. So, Jason, I'll ask, what are your thoughts here?
Well, with the amount of talent they have on this roster now on the offensive side of the ball and the number of pass catches they have, I mean, that's a wonderful thing to say, but again, there's just so many mouths to feed. They may not even need Melvin Gordon to catch a pass this year. This is you start hearing this coach speak a lot more now. You're going to start hearing every single running back. They'll probably be like, "Oh, Leonard Fournette's going to catch the ball out of the backfield more often than usual. We're going to throw the ball to, all these different running backs." So I take this with a grain of salt.
Yeah. I mean, I'm inclined to believe and agree, and I guess we'll see. But in the meantime, I mean, more work is always good for a good floor, and this guy already has a pretty high floor. So who knows? Maybe if he is pretty effective there, and this he's not facing stacked boxes, which I doubt he'll see with a healthy wide receiver core. Obviously, he lost a tight end, but they've got the pieces, I believe, to fill that role and fill that gap in the offense. I don't think it's going to slow them down very much. Maybe a higher ceiling. So I again, this is a positive step. We want to see a guy who's there all 3 downs, and it looks like he will be. So yeah, we'll move on. This is kind of to the point of what we were talking about on Friday's show, some running back committees to potentially avoid. And in Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Times expects second-round rookie running back Ronald Jones to, quote, share the load, end quote, with Peyton Barber and Charles Sims to play on third downs. So we're hearing not just in the overall scheme of the offense, but if he was to win the third down back roll, it looks like he'd be sharing the load with 2 other guys. So I'm not sure what kind of a floor we can expect from a guy that we all kind of expect to win the job by the end of the season, but at what point and at what value are you going to have to invest to get this guy in your team, and then how long are you going to have to sit him on your bench? Because I doubt his floor is going to be worth starting him. I mean, maybe as a bye-week plug-in in the waiver wire, but, I mean, to me, this kind of concretely solidifies what we were talking about on Friday. So, Jason, what are your thoughts here?
No, I agree with you. They're just mudding up the water a little bit more, And Ronald Jones, to me, was one of my least favorite top running backs in the draft, in this last draft. He's not as exciting as the other guys in my opinion. So saying, oh, we're gonna, he's gonna share the load, all that kind of stuff, it's definitely kind of a hands off for me.
Yeah. It's going to move him down my rankings and my draft boards, that's for sure. So, yeah, we'll move on.
Yeah.
Last bit of news that we felt was worth really talking about. The Atlanta Falcons have confirmed that wide receiver Julio Jones will not be attending mandatory minicamps. Though he's got, I think it's 3 years left on his contract. He is going through contract disputes. I mean, a lot of people contest that he is, maybe not for fantasy, but in real life, probably the second, third best wide receiver in the league. He wants to be paid as such. That's kind of what's going on here. So I don't expect him to hold out for the season, but he's definitely holding out during the offseason. So we'll see how it shakes out. I mean, I could be wrong there. We might see a holdout during the year as well. Good thing they drafted a first-round rookie wide receiver, I guess, but plays a very different role. So, I mean, are you at all concerned about this, Jason? Because I feel like you have to be because, I mean, yes, he's been here. He knows the offense. He knows the schemes. He's got to report the quarterback. But, when you're not getting reps, it takes you a little while to get back into the scheme of things. We saw this with, of course, Le'Veon Bell the last year. So, different position, but I think same result. So what's your thoughts here, Jason?
If Julio Jones wants to get paid like a top receiver, he's going to need to show up more than 1 or 2 games per year. And that's the bottom line. When he hasn't been doing that recently, he shows up for 1 or 2 games and plays outside of his mind, just out of his mind.
Yep. And
then disappears. Now, the only thing that I would be concerned about is if he did hold over into the season. One of the reasons that Atlanta is able to move the ball is because people key on Julio Jones, and that's one of the reasons he disappears. So that creates matchup problems for Atlanta, trying to get their other receivers open. So that could be an issue. Overall, I think that Julio is just going to have to come back down to earth and realize he's really, honestly, not worth that kind of money, unfortunately.
See, and again, that's where I think that the reality versus the fantasy aspect kind of falls in, because he does a lot, but I mean, as some analysts that I respect and have talked to pointed out to me, he had more drops than he had touchdowns last year, which is not a good stat.
Yeah.
So,
no.
Yeah, I mean, 1,400-yard receiver, and, he's constantly out there doing big things, drawing coverages, helping the offense move, but, yeah, touchdowns are good, too.
You got to score. You got to score, and not only that, you got to put yards up there. He's not putting yards up. He's not putting points on the board. He's talking about how important he is to this offense. Yeah, like I said, he's important for 1 or 2 games. But other than that, he's not scoring for the team. He's not getting yards. He's not moving the sticks. He's not a possession receiver. So, I mean, yeah, he's great, but what's he do? He's not doing anything for him. So, again, he's got to show some stats. He's got to show some numbers if he wants to get some money.
I agree. So I guess we'll move on. We'll see how that plays out. It should be interesting. I don't know if it's going to really be super impactful, but it will be interesting. So let's see. With that, that's really all the news. Everything else is similar things with people not expected to show up, but that was already the expectation. Some defensive players, this, that, the other contracts. But these are the ones that we thought were fantasy relevant enough to talk about. Otherwise, we could honestly spend 2-3 hours talking about all the news that probably won't affect anything come the regular season, so why waste our time? With that, we'll move on to our topic of the day, however, which is our early mid-round values. So we both put down, what do we have, like 6 or so guys that we think that are going in the middle rounds, which to us, the middle rounds are around 6 through 10. So you have 1 through 5 is the early rounds, 6 through 10 is the middle rounds, 11 through 15, 16, depending on your league, are the late rounds. Those are the sleepers. So these are the guys that could return early round value, but you're getting them at a much discounted price. So with that, I'm going to have you start, actually, Jason. Why don't you throw one out at me?
All right, I'll throw one out. I'm going to go in order here, from highest down to lowest rounds picks. I'm going to start in the 6th round, 5th pick. Royce Freeman, running back out of Denver, is a rookie. Came in, and I think if you've been listening to the show recently, you've heard me talk about this guy. I think he's the best guy they've got in their backfield right now in Denver. I feel like he's a complete package for them. He could be a 3-down back. He's got the size, he's got the speed, and he should work his way into being the starter for this team. So I think picking him up in the 6th round, you could get yourself a definite starter caliber guy.
You're not at all worried about all the reports that have come out of Denver, like the Denver Post even recently saying that they expect that the Broncos to have a, quote, what was it, a healthy dose of Devontae Booker this season. That doesn't concern you?
Well, we've seen what a healthy dose of Devontae Booker is. It means they're going to have to look elsewhere because Devontae Booker is not that guy. He cannot shoulder the load. So yeah, they may start the season saying we're gonna give a healthy dose of Devontae Booker. But after 2 or 3 games where he's getting his brain smashed out against the brick wall, they're going to have to turn to somebody else. And I think Royce Freeman steps in. I think he's a better option. And I think Devontae Booker takes his natural role as a 3rd-down back.
I mean, I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate. I agree with you, but we'll see. This could very easily be a 2-headed committee, and that dilutes everything. But, middle rounds, you're looking for some upside. You're not taking necessarily shots in the dark. I think that he'll have some serious floor. And if Booker goes the way he's been the last couple years, where he has had an opportunity, failed miserably at it to really grasp that opportunity, who knows? Freeman could, like you were saying, step in and get a healthy workload and be quite productive. For a 6th-round value, you could be getting much earlier round value, which is what we're doing here, so I like it. I put my guys in chronological order as well as far as where they're drafted, so we're going to move from earlier rounds to later rounds. I didn't start picking guys until much later. I started looking around the 8th round, and the first name that popped out to me in the 8th round, the 2nd pick, was Pierre Garçon, wide receiver out of San Francisco. And it's, I think, pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. Guys, you're getting a number 1 wide receiver on a team in the NFL under a Kyle Shanahan offense, and we've seen that he's built a pretty decent rapport with Jimmy Garoppolo. So I don't think the wheels are falling off Pierre Garçon. I know age is a concern. I know they've added other weapons, but I think that will help pull coverage away from him. And I could see Pierre Garçon easily giving you wide receiver 2 upside. And for a guy you're getting in the 8th round, almost into the double digits, that's a serious value. That's a guy you can easily plug and play into your flex position or your number 3 wide receiver spot, depending on your league format. And again, great value to be getting that guy. Most of my picks are wide receivers, and that's kind of to my point as to why I load up on running backs early, because the wide receiver position to me is much easier to plug and play, and there's a lot more depth here. So Pierre Garçon's one of those guys that I will definitely take easily in the 8th round. What are your thoughts, Jason?
My only concern with Pierre Garçon is that I don't think he is the number 1 choice this year. I think the number 1 choice is going to end up being somebody else, and I'll talk about them later because they're one of my guys. But I do like Pierre Garçon in this offense. I think Garoppolo is going to be able to find him and make him more productive than he's been recently. So overall, not a bad pick in the 8th round.
Well, I mean, yeah, you point out other guys, but like, okay, so not to get ahead of ourselves too much here, but like Marquise Goodwin, for instance, a fantasy darling, especially for deeper leagues and anyone who's follows draft Twitter, fantasy football, shows like ours. We all got hip to him last year. I think he'll be a heavy part of the offense. I think he's going to be more of an outside deep threat where Pierre Garçon's going to kind of work the middle, I think, be more of a possession guy. So I think the floor is higher. Goodwin, I expect to have maybe a higher ceiling, but maybe not week to week. They got Richie James, which was a guy they drafted this year. He's probably going to be in the slot. Dante Pettis, I think they're going to bring along slow. And behind them, it's a bunch of question marks. So you could really make an argument either way, but I think that Pierre Garçon...
Just Trent Taylor.
Trent Taylor's working out of the slot, though. He's their slot guy. So
that's the thing that concerns me, too, is that you're saying you're going to work across the middle, but they got a lot of slot receivers, you know?
They do.
And Pierre Garçon, he's got to be an outside guy because of the number of slot receivers, and they got to keep him in the game because of his production. But I don't know if he's got the speed anymore to deal with these outside corners. You know.
Well, no, I mean when I say he's working the middle of the field, I don't think out of the slot. He's definitely going to line up out wide. Right. I think he's going to work the outside, and I think he's going to run the comeback inside routes. He's going to be a possession move the chains type guy. Is kind of what I'm saying. I don't think he's going to be that guy like you said. He doesn't have the speed. I don't think he's going to be that vertical burner. He's never been that guy. So that's what they have Goodwin and a couple of these other picks that they've made and added to the team recently to do. But Kyle Shanahan, super creative, very good at getting his guys open, and Jimmy Garoppolo with a full offseason to build a rapport. You're getting, to me, just amazing value in the 8th round, so I would not pass it up. I would happily take Pierre Garçon there. Okay, yeah, with that...
That'd be my turn.
Your turn.
All right, yeah. One of my favorite moves in the offseason was Sammy Watkins to Kansas City. I think that's a great move. They've got Tyreek Hill over there, who's the burner. The guy's going to do a little bit of everything. So Sammy Watkins is going to be able to be the beneficiary of the fact that defenses are going to have to key on Tyreek Hill. They're going to have to key on Kareem Hunt, and Watkins is going to get opportunities. So I think this is a great pick. He's going the 7th round, second pick. I think that's a solid pick in the 7th round.
Yeah. Of course, the counter narrative that everybody gives, and this is why I think Watkins is dropping, was that he didn't have a phenomenal year last year, when he was in a great opportunity to do so. And he's going to a system that seems to feature 3 guys. They throw the ball to Tyreek Hill, they run/dump it off to Kareem Hunt, and obviously there's Travis Kelce. Now, my counter to that argument is they have a new quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, who I think is going to want to just chuck the ball downfield. I can talk. Either or, probably more than Alex Smith did. I don't think he's going to be as careful with the ball, which may lead to less downs, less snaps, less drives, or some that stall early. But I think that also they didn't have anyone Sammy Watkins' caliber on the team last year as a number 2 receiver. So I could see where this opens up a bit more. So, and they're taking the approach that a lot of these teams are doing when they feel they have hit a home run with the young quarterback. They are just selling out for the now. They're bringing in as much talent to surround them with before they have to start paying that quarterback money. So I see a world where Sammy Watkins could be worth this value. I think it's a little risky, but by the time you start getting to the 7th, 8th round, I think that's a risk worth taking. So I'm okay with that.
Man, this is some high level analysis from Mr. Griffin Palmer here. He just countered my argument and then countered his counter to my argument. That's hot. That's top shelf.
It's what we do. I'm not necessarily here to shoot down anything. I'm here to play as devil's advocate, give you all the information to make an informed decision for your leagues, and know all the facts. So that's what I'm doing. So yeah, Sammy Watkins. It's I'm not going to say polarizing because I don't think it is. I don't think a lot of people are off on Sammy Watkins as much as we've been hearing. I think when push comes to shove, people are going to draft the name and a guy who was in a good offense last year. I trust Andy Reid, so I think he'll get going. My turn. Next guy on my list, Kerryon Johnson, running back out of Detroit, going with the 6th pick in the 8th round. Now, I know. Wait, guys, didn't you just talk about the Detroit Lions running back field on Friday's show? Yes, we did, Mr. Listener, whose voice I just made up. But the thing is, you have to...
Apparently he was drunk.
Was he? I don't know. It's just kind of the first voice that came to mind.
Is he just talking about Kerryon Johnson? Yeah, why are you drunk listening to the show?
Maybe it's his therapy. I don't know. But we all expect when it's all said and done, Kerryon Johnson to be their number 1 running back. Now, whether that's a committee, whether that's a multi-head system, whether that's a situation where he's in a rotation, who knows? We don't know. But we think that he has what it takes because last year they were running essentially Amir Abdullah as their lead back and then a plethora of guys as third down change of pace. I think Kerryon Johnson replaces Amir Abdullah. I think the Amir Abdullah experiment is over in Detroit. I think they're over it. He's inconsistent. He's got a lot of injuries. I think he's still talented, but I think it's a part of the system. So I think he comes in, he's getting you a good workload, a decent amount of volume, which is probably pretty safe floor to be taking in the 8th round at the running back position. Behind that, he doesn't have too much. Now, obviously, you have to worry about LeGarrette Blount. LeGarrette Blount's going to steal red zone touches. He's going to steal short yardage work. That's a fact. But who's to say that LeGarrette Blount, I mean, he's getting up there in age. Maybe they use him sparingly. Theo Riddick, Zach Zenner, these guys are pass-catching backs. Maybe they'll be the third down guy. But just in the 8th round, getting a guy like Kerryon Johnson, which I think could very safely earn himself the lead first, second down back role. Maybe not the highest ceiling in the world. Obviously, an offense that's trying to run the ball better, and they made some serious upgrades on the offensive line this offseason. I don't know if it's going to be there yet. I don't know if that's their offensive philosophy with Jim Bob Cooter yet, but I just want a piece of it early because I think that Kerryon Johnson, I mean, he's going the 8th right. I'm going to monitor this. I think he might slip further, and then I think his value and his worth for you to grab in your drafts keeps rising, obviously, the later he goes. And so he's a guy I will be looking for by the late 8th round. So, Jason, what say you?
Yeah, it's always dangerous when you're talking about Detroit's running game. Now, the point you made that I completely agree with, this team finally got serious and said, you know what, we're going to draft some pieces to make our running game better. Because our running game has been garbage recently, and they really need to give some help to Matthew Stafford. The guy cannot do everything himself, you know. So they finally went out, got themselves a running game, basically, you know. And like you said, it's a little muddled right now, but I do like Kerryon Johnson as kind of the all-purpose guy, the guy that can do a little bit of everything. I think that the cream is going to rise to the top, and he's going to end up being the starter.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see, and that's the value we're putting to him. So, yeah, I'll grab him there. Your next guy, Jason.
Well, speaking of the cream rising to the top, let's talk about a guy also in the 8th round, 4th pick. You know what? The 8th round is my favorite round in this draft so far. It's just
there's
so
a lot
much
of guys.
Talent. Yeah, a lot of good guys.
I'm assuming it's not going to look like this come draft season. I think people are going to wise up on a lot of these players.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think some guys are going to slip down, some guys are going to rise up. But anyway, Nick Chubb, running back, Cleveland. Now, look, I get it. Carlos Hyde is slated to be the starter. He's the guy. He is very talented. He's going to be the guy the Browns go to first, just like Tyrod Taylor is going to be the guy the Browns go to first. And at the beginning of the year, Cleveland's going to look like this has a very exciting-looking offense because you got Tyrod Taylor and you got Carlos Hyde. Very, very dynamic offensive players. But the bottom line is that's not the future, and Nick Chubb could very well be the present, depending. All right? The Browns love Nick Chubb. That's why they grabbed him. They want him to grow with that young quarterback they took at number 1. And when Hyde gets injured, not if, but when Hyde gets injured, Chubb was going to be worth his weight in gold because I believe he will be the starter. I don't think Duke Johnson's the guy. I think Chubb will be the guy. Duke Johnson will end up being the third down back.
This is tough for me because basically I agree with you. I really do. My thing is Carlos Hyde's paid a crap ton of guaranteed money this year. He's going to get the starting crack. And we always say you can't necessarily draft and evaluate guys based on injury unless they have a long track record. Carlos Hyde does have a history of being injured and banged up. But, I mean, he did just play a full season, which is why he gets a little bit murky. I really do like Nick Chubb, and I think he'll be a guy who is going to be valued at a much higher round, much higher ADP in future years. This year, it's going to be really, do you buy Jason's argument that Carlos Hyde will probably get hurt and Nick Chubb will move in? Because I agree with Duke Johnson. Duke Johnson, he was great last year. I thought he did a very good job, and there's a narrative where he was going to be possibly the starter with Isaiah Crowell moving on this offseason, and then they went out and they signed Carlos Hyde. They drafted Nick Chubb. So clearly the team doesn't necessarily believe in him to shoulder the load. I still think he will be a rotational third down back. But Nick Chubb's either going to really do well, especially given an opportunity, or he's going to be a big bust, which is why, to me, he's kind of scary. And this is one of those guys we might disagree on. 4th pick in the 8th round. I mean, it's totally justifiable to take a shot on this guy, but at this point, he's a high-level handcuff, and high-level handcuffs I'm usually looking for in the double-digit rounds. So,
well, I'll tell you one thing also about Nick Chubb that may make you think about him too. Carlos Hyde is not a between-the-tackles guy. I mean, he can run between the tackles, but that is not his forte, and plus they don't want him doing that because that's when he gets injured. Nick Chubb is definitely a between the tackles guy. He is a power runner. So you may see him take some goal line snaps, get some touchdowns, and snipe some of those away from Carlos Hyde.
I agree with you, but then I will raise you another point. They are now running a Todd Haley offense, which likes to do a lot of stretch zone, run to the outside type plays, not as much power, I formation, running forward type stuff. So Carlos Hyde fits that better. So and this is why it's a very confusing and frustrating backfield to look at, because both these guys are very talented, and Nick Chubb in the 8th round is a great value, but that's provided he gets the opportunity. You might be burning an 8th round pick on a guy who's going to sit on your bench almost the whole season, or a guy who, as Carlos Hyde has been known to do, is hurt by week 3, and then you've got yourself a starter, which in that case, it's a justified pick. So this is going to be a little bit of Russian roulette here. Some people are going to pull the trigger here, and they're going to get lucky. Others are going to maybe pull the trigger or not pull the trigger, and then they'll win out the argument in the end. It's hard to say. There's going to be a certain level of gambling with picking Nick Chubb, I think, at this point. But he could easily be a great value in the 8th round. So we do agree on that. It's just a matter of how it plays out. And who knows? We might have more clarity on the situation by August. Maybe Carlos Hyde will be hurt by then. Who knows? But we'll see.
More than likely.
Track record points to the possibility, yes. So with that, let's move on to the guy who I just mentioned who did move on from the team, and that is the one and only Isaiah Crowell. Now, Isaiah Crowell, he has gone from Cleveland to the New York Jets. Now, I know the Jets are a very scary prospect to be drafting pieces from, but this is a team that, though very much in a rebuild, they have set the foundation to start growing. I think that obviously they have faith in Josh McCown. If he doesn't work out, Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Darnold are there. All of these guys are going to require respect. Wow, from the defense.
You okay there?
No, not really. They're going to.
You're the one that's drunk.
I know, right? Maybe that's where I got it from. Maybe I'm just too drunk to be doing this right now. But no,
that's what it is.
Yeah. Wow. The defense won't probably stack the line. The weapons are not necessarily anything to write home about, but all of these guys have had an upside, and I think if they all click together, this could be actually a surprisingly sneaky good offense. We've seen Robbie Anderson, Quincy Nunwa both being able to run as 1As. Maybe not being able to do it by themselves, but with distractions on the field, they can be dominant against number 2 coverages. The number 1 coverage can only cover one of these guys at a time. And then let's not forget, they also brought in Terrell Pryor. Now, obviously, Terrell Pryor was nothing to write home about last year. He did not mesh in Washington. But maybe we get the Terrell Pryor of 2016 from Cleveland this year, working out of the slot, maybe the right wide receiver outside. Who knows exactly where he's going to line up. But if all 3 of those guys are on the field, all those, I think, are 1A type guys or high number 2s. And together in an offense, they could be kind of a dangerous trio. So I kind of like the long shot that is the Jets, and Isaiah Crowell penciled in to be the starter. Now they and this is one of those teams. I don't think we got to talk. Did we talk about them on Friday, or did we just reference them? I don't think we talked about them.
I think we just referenced them.
Yeah, this was one of those committees that really scared us. Obviously, Bilal Powell is there. They like him. He's a 3-down back. Elijah McGuire, a guy that kind of came on last year that the team liked. He was a 6th-round pick last year in the draft. They signed Thomas Rawls. They have Lawrence Thomas. They also signed, or they drafted, I should say, Trenton Cannon in the 6th round. But when it's all said and done, Isaiah Crowell is getting a pretty healthy paycheck. We've seen that he can be a very good running back, 1st, 2nd down, and has 3rd down back potential. He can catch the ball, though he wasn't asked to do it a ton in Cleveland. I just think that it's going to be his position to lose more than it's going to be something he has to win. So I like him as a upside play. I'm not worried about him getting hurt necessarily. I think that he's going to get the workload. Now, I don't think he may have a high ceiling, but I think his floor is definitely worth where he's going as a mid-8th round pick. I mean, you're getting a starting running back in the 8th round, which is value for your flex position, obviously, and he might give you some running back 2 weeks. What are your thoughts, Jason?
Yeah, I'm really rooting for Isaiah Crowell here. I really like this player. I think he's productive. He's got really nice ability to give you a nice, decent floor. And this could be a good move for him away from Cleveland to the Jets. Like you said, the Jets, I think, are sneaky. They don't look like they should be a good offense, but I think they're going to be, especially if that young quarterback starts sooner rather than later. So I do like Isaiah Crowell. in the 8th round. I think, like you said, that's a starting running back in the 8th round. I'll take that every time.
There you go. And we agree. So let's move on to your next guy.
Yeah, speaking of starting running backs in the 8th round, Jamal Williams, running back out of Green Bay, taken 5th in the 8th round. 5th pick in the 8th round. I think this is the starter. I think you and I have talked about this a lot. Jamal Williams, in my opinion, is the starter. I think he's got the highest upside of all the running backs on their roster. And I absolutely would have no problem taking Jamal Williams in the 8th round. I mean, this is a guy that could be a top 10 running back, in my opinion, if he's given the opportunity and if things fall the right way. So that is a lot of upside for a guy you're getting in the 8th round.
It's a guy who moved the offense for the Packers when given the opportunity while Aaron Rodgers was not there. You and I both like this guy the best out of this committee. We talked about this on Friday. I know we did.
Yes, we did.
Very, very polarizing backfield. Everyone is either in Aaron Jones's camp or Jamal Williams' camp. Ty Montgomery can go take a walk. He can go kick rocks. But it's going to be one of these two guys, and we're hearing narratives to both of their upside and therefore to the demise of the other guy. It depends on what camp you're in. I really do like Jamal Williams. There's the argument that Aaron Jones looked more explosive and more of a playmaker, but Jamal Williams, at the end of the day, had a great stat line. His averages, his statistics, and the eyeball tests all were good later on in the season. Second year in the offense, maybe he just didn't transition well to the pro level right away, which is maybe why Aaron Jones kind of got a crack. He was banged up, to be fair, but this is why this is so polarizing, because you can write this narrative a dozen different ways. I, like you, would love to grab him in the 8th round. We did talk about this on Friday where I said whichever one of these guys goes first, I will then hop on the next guy, because then that's going to make it a great value. And it could go either way, but if I, gun to my head, had to choose one that I wanted for my team, whether he ends up winning the job or not, I would feel more comfortable with Jamal Williams getting snaps than Aaron Jones, so he's the guy that I would pick up. I know that's an unpopular opinion because, again, it's polarizing. Some people may completely disagree, but that's where I land watching the tape, looking at the stats from last season. I believe you're in the same camp there, Jason.
I am, yeah.
All right, so there we go. I wonder what camp CJ's in. Too bad he's not here.
He's in a different camp. He's like camping out away from us. I don't know. Let's ask him.
He's at oh God, what was heavyweights? What was the name of that camp?
Oh, come on. It's not right.
Oh, my God. I can't believe I can't remember this.
We'll think of it later.
We'll think of it later. I'm going to Google it when you're talking next. Not that CJ's overweight, but I just think it's funny to think of. So anyway, yeah. Next guy. We're making some nice transitions here, by the way, because next guy on my list is actually from the same team, and that is wide receiver Randall Cobb. Now, I know. Whoa, Griffin, whoa. Randall Cobb hasn't done anything in years. I know, listener, I know. Was that more sober? I think that was better. But here's the thing.
That was a little more sober.
Okay, good. Here's the thing. Jordy Nelson is gone. We have seen Aaron Rodgers able to support multiple number 1/1-2 receivers in the past for fantasy. Randall Cobb has a great rapport with Aaron Rodgers, and with Jordy Nelson gone, someone has to pick up that slack. Randall Cobb's finally healthy. He was looking really good for spurts last year when healthy. I think he is slotted to do great things, so I think the defenses are going to sell out to shut down Devontae Adams, which is going to be the number one. You know, he's earned that over the last couple of years, and Jimmy Graham, who's going to require, obviously, a lot of attention, especially in the red zone. Randall Cobb is going to run free. He's explosive. He's quick. He hasn't lost a step. He has great hands, and he can move inside and outside. I really like Randall Cobb, and you're getting a guy who can give you easily wide receiver 2 upside. Definitely worth a flex play week to week, and you're getting him in the 9th round. So Randall Cobb's a guy that, I know he's let people down in the last couple of years, but his opportunity is way too good to pass up. His floor to me is just too high. So what say you, Jason?
But Camp Hope, by the way. Camp Hope is what you're
Camp
looking for.
Hope. Thank you.
There you go. I am not a big believer in Randall Cobb. I mean, I've watched the guy. I have never personally drafted him, and for several reasons. He's never really excited me in any way. I've never seen anything from him. Now, you're right though. With no Jordy Nelson, that's a different world. we could definitely see him take a step forward and be the guy that he can be. So in the 9th round, that's pretty late. I can see taking him there, sure.
I mean, I'm not going to say we're going to see 2014 Randall Cobb, where it was 91 receptions, just under 1,300 yards, and 12 touchdowns. I mean, that'd be great. But we could see much more career average from him, which would be somewhere in the 800 to 900 yard range, maybe 7 or 8 touchdowns, and that is amazing value for the 9th round. In the 9th round, you're looking at guys that usually will get you about half of that even. So I know he's an injury risk the last couple of years, but, I mean, he's still a guy who I think the opportunity in an Aaron Rodgers-led offense is way too good to pass up, and I will not be passing it up myself. So I've always been a big Cobb supporter, and I'm getting back on that hype train. Let's go. Let's do this. Jason, you're next guy. I keep debating, like, who am I going to throw to? But then I remember, Camp Hope's not here.
Only one of us.
Yeah. So
Camp Hope's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's rough. Camp Hope is not here.
Yep.
Okay, so 8th round, 9th pick. I'm telling you, I love the 8th round. So much talent in the 8th round right now. Marquise Goodwin, we talked about him earlier, wide receiver out of San Francisco. I watched Goodwin before Garoppolo started throwing the ball in San Francisco and thought, that's a pretty talented-looking dude. He can be pretty good. And then when Garoppolo got there just seemed to be this rapport that just kind of built between him and Goodwin, and it looked really, really nice. These two could be throwing and catching with each other for a very long time. I think that rapport continues to strengthen throughout this offseason. And I think that if you take him in the 8th round, he's going to feel like a steal by the end of the season, because I think he's going to end up being Garoppolo's favorite target.
Maybe he's at Camp Anawana, which was from Salute Your Shorts. I'm not looking up famous camps.
I'm so glad your head is in the game here.
I know, right? Well, I mean, look, I already made my point about Marcus Goodwin back when we were talking about Pierre Garçon. I don't think it's worth repeating. So, okay, let me rephrase. It's definitely worth repeating, but all the debates and information needed is back there, so rewind the tape a little bit. But yeah, I really like Marcus Goodwin. If he's there in the 8th, I will pick him up. It's just a matter of boom bust. I think he's a lower floor, much higher ceiling play than Pierre Garçon. So, but 8th round for a guy in a Kyle Shanahan offense, let's do this all day, every day. Next guy on my list is Allen Hurns. Now, hear me out. Let's pump the brakes. I know Allen Hurns has not been amazing in his career. He's had some good seasons, guys. I'm trying to bring it up, but for some reason my computer's going really slow, so bear with me. But here's the thing. He's in Dallas now. You know who else is in Dallas? Nobody. So I fully expect him to be able to go in there, and he's going to be in the starting rotation, one of the top 2 receivers, and he's going to go out there and be productive. Now, he's had a year. I finally got it working. Under Blake Bortles, and this is Blake Bortles we're talking about here, where he was able to put up over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. So clearly, the kid's got skills. He's 6'3", 201. He's only 26 years old. He's fast, so he can definitely play outside. I think he's going to be that big body guy. I think he might actually be. I don't have all the team breakdown in front of me, but I think he might be the tallest receiver on the team. And you know who else was tall in that offense? Dez Bryant and Jason Witten. You know who's gone? Both of those guys. They're going to need that big guy who's going to be targeted by Dak Prescott, and it could easily be Allen Hurns. I love the upside here, and he's just a guy who I think could deliver. I think he could get you a good floor on volume and a high ceiling with touchdowns, and he's a guy that is going right now in the 10th round. And I think a lot of that is name recognition. I don't know, but I just think his opportunity is way too good to pass up. And if he's there in the 10th round, I will be sniping him all day, every day. Now, I know you've heard us talk a lot about Michael Gallup, and I think he's going to be a big part of this offense too. But bottom line, he's a rookie. He's going to have to earn his rotation and his snaps by the end of the year, yes, but I think Allen Hurns will be a starter week 1 and probably through the remainder of the season, provided he stays healthy, which, to be fair, is something you have to worry about because he hasn't yet to play a full season. Oh, and actually, no, it's a lie. He was healthy in all 16 games his rookie year. His rookie year. But he wasn't used much in his rookie year, only 51 receptions. So, Jason, what say you about Allen Hurns?
Well, the bottom line is you got to throw the ball to somebody. And in Dallas, they don't have a lot of options. Allen Hurns is pretty much their only option, as you mentioned, who's not a rookie, So, yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that he's got the height, he's got the speed, he's got the ability. He played with a substandard quarterback in Jacksonville and still was rather productive. While he was there, he did have a 1,000-yard season on 64 receptions, so that's pretty good production right there. I think he can repeat that, and I think this offense, if he figures out a way to mesh with the quarterback, I think he could be very, very good. 10th round, I'm taking that all day long.
There you go. We agree yet again. Your next guy.
It happens. Yeah, that happens sometimes.
From time to time.
My next guy, one of my favorite guys from last year, Cooper Kupp. 9th round, 6th pick, Cooper Kupp. You know, the Rams have just been loading up on talent recently. They just have. I mean, adding people left and right. It's very exciting to watch. But the bottom line is Cooper Kupp started getting a lot of volume at the very beginning of his career. That's something that you don't see happening very often. And Goff was looking for him more than he was looking for other receivers. I like that. I like the fact that this guy and Goff already have a rapport with each other. And I feel like Goff is going to use him as a security blanket. He's going to throw the ball to him when in doubt, and Kupp is going to be that guy who is a beneficiary of knowing the quarterback better than some of the other receivers on this team. So I really like Cooper Kupp, and I would take him in the 9th round in a heartbeat.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp, obviously, if you played fantasy last year, especially in a deeper league, or you followed our show or any other show out there that was paying attention, he was really freaking good last year. Now, of course, last year he had to deal with Sammy Watkins being there as well, and Sammy Watkins ate up a good amount of targets. Sammy Watkins was, I believe, the number one in most of the progressions there, and I think that's also why Sammy Watkins didn't have a great season, because bottom line, Goff wouldn't throw his way sometimes. He would see that he was covered and throw to Woods or Kupp. Now, that being said, Kupp was definitely kind of that PPR guy playing mostly out of the slot, and I see that happening again this year because we swap out Sammy Watkins, we bring in Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks, even more of an outside stretch the field type guy. I think he's going to be doing that. Robert Woods, very good in all aspects. Cooper Kupp, a nice PPR option, and so if you're in PPR league, obviously he's worth taking way earlier than this, but if he's still sitting there in, what did you say, the 9th round, yeah, jump on that, because that is a guy who's going to give you a very consistent floor. I think he's going to be definitely a guy that you can plug and play with confidence week in and week out. And then he has that opportunity to get you a nice touchdown upside. He had 5 touchdowns last year, which isn't great by any stretch of the imagination, but you know who that's more than? Julio Jones. Just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mic drop. So, yeah.
And that's a rookie, guys.
And that was a rookie. Yeah, I think that Cooper Kupp, and he's not a short guy either. He's 6'2". He's a pretty tall receiver to be playing a possession role. So I think he's gonna surprise people. I think he's gonna take a step in his rookie year and have an even higher floor. He almost got to 900 yards last year, and so. Yeah, I really like Cooper Kupp. In the 9th round, he's definitely worth taking. He's a very safe stash, a great bye-week plug-in guy, and I think matchup to matchup, I think he's a safe start week in and week out as a number 3 flex option. So, yeah, Cooper Kupp, I like it. My last guy that I'm going to talk about is Nelson Agholor. Now, I know Nelson Agholor, he's a guy who he has kind of gone through the ringer. Now, he's a guy who really, really, really underwhelmed. And I wish CJ was here because CJ, of course, can weigh in even more than I could because this is his team, his Eagles. He's a guy that they drafted high. He was a first-round pick back in 2015, and he did not return on that value for a number of years.
No.
Here's the problem. He was being forced to play outside. You know what he did his entire collegiate career? By a large majority, he played inside. He played in the slot. Last year, you know where he played?
Slot.
In the slot. And you know what he did?
He played well.
He played well.
Very well.
Holy crap, look at that. He moved to a position that he was successful in his collegiate career. When he was learning football, he was very good at it. That's what he does. I know he's a little tall to be playing the slot. He's 6 foot, but that's what he does. Last year, he played a full season. He almost doubled his receptions. He quadrupled his touchdown total. I mean, what more can you ask for? So I think another year in the system, Nelson Agholor playing in the slot, penciled in to do right now. If he gets you another 60 60-plus receptions, around 800 yards, and 8 touchdowns again, yeah, that is worth a 10th-round pick all day, every day, people. I mean, you're talking about guys who are going to get you half of that, usually going the double-digit round. So he's a guy that's absolutely worth sniping late in your drafts if he's there. Again, kind of like Cooper Kupp, he's going to be one of those guys that I think is going to give you a very high floor with a, obviously, upside ceiling because, I mean, 8 touchdowns, that's a touchdown every other game, which, I mean, that's all you need to have a good week in fantasy is a touchdown and a couple yards. So, yeah, Nelson Aguilar is a guy that I will be looking for later in my drafts. And I know there's the whole narrative, well, what about Mike Wallace? Well, Mike Wallace is filling the Torrey Smith role. Now, as a guy who has watched both these teams rotate through his team, both these players rotate through his team, I have to say I love Torrey Smith. Mike Wallace is a better version of Torrey Smith. They're both outside burners. Mike Wallace, better hands, a little bit better of a route runner. He's going to be doing that. Alshon Jeffrey is going to be, they're going to be working the outside roles. They're going to be doing all types of crazy formations. And that's going to leave Nelson Aguilar very much open to do a lot of underneath stuff along with the tight ends and pass catching backs. So, yeah, that's all. There's a lot of mouths to feed here, but I think Nelson Aguilar is positioned to succeed this year. What say you, Jason?
You know, it's nice to see when offensive coordinators stop trying to outthink themselves and go, you know what, let's just put him where he normally plays.
It's a rare thing to
and
see.
Then he picks it up.
I feel like a lot of offensive coordinators think that they're smarter than everybody else and they can make it work. But bottom line, these players are they are who they are. So
it's one of those things you see when you watch the playoffs. It's another really good time to see that because these offensive coordinators are trying to outthink everybody. Like I'm going to do what no one expects, and it's like, well, that's not what got you here. Nelson Aguilar is tall for a slot receiver. However, I see a lot more teams employing taller slot receivers soon. I mean, Arizona has been doing it for years now with Larry Fitzgerald. It's worked out fantastic. So I really do like, and Aguilar is much faster than Fitzgerald. He's a fast receiver. I really like Nelson Aguilar. I'm glad that he was able to kind of find his groove this year.
You know what else he did? Talking about the playoffs, he did 4 touchdowns in the playoffs. I mean, that's pretty good.
Wow.
Clearly, he got rolling. He in 3 games got half of what he got over the course of the season. So I mean, he just kept building a rapport and doing better and better. And that's of course with the swap from Carson Wentz early on to building a rapport with Nick Foles. So I think that he's a safe pick, and he's a guy that people are overlooking because I think that. We talk about first impressions and how some players really struggle to shake that through their careers, and it takes years of constant progression and production to really shed that. Nelson Aguilar's not there yet. He's a guy a lot of people are sleeping on, so he's a guy I'll definitely be looking for. Let's wrap it up with your next guy, Jason.
All right, my last guy is Martavis Bryant, wide receiver out of Oakland. He's being taken as the 2nd pick in the 10th round. Look. If you believe all the hype and you believe what you've been listening to out of the Gruden camp, Cooper is going to be the guy in Oakland. They want to go to Cooper. Cooper's going to make the whole offense run Cooper. The bottom line is we've seen Cooper. Okay, we've been waiting for Cooper to wake up and become the guy everybody expected him to be, and it just has not happened. And I don't think anything's going to change. All the space they're putting in him, that's fantastic. He's had all that space before, and he did absolutely nothing with it. And all this mouth service they're giving to, Cooper's going to be the guy. Defenses are going to understand that. They're going to key on him. Jordy Nelson's getting a little bit old, so I think that the odd man out here is Martavis Bryant. I think this is a guy that if you take him in the 10th round, you're going to look like a genius later because he is going to be the guy who gets those passes. He's going to be open. We know he can get separation. We've seen him in action. He's 6'4". He's a big body receiver. And he's used to volume. He's going to get volume. So I really like Martavis Bryant, especially given the fact that people are overlooking him and he's going all the way down in the 10th round.
Martavis Bryant. Now, this is a guy that we may disagree with. 10th round kind of negates most arguments because, bottom line, he's going to get you production. But I just don't know how much. I really don't like what John Gruden's been doing this offseason. He's been taking an old team and making it, in some ways, older. He's getting rid of some old guys and bringing in other old guys, and that's concerning. This team needs a lot. It needs kind of a spark. Jordy Nelson coming in, we saw that he was not able to be productive without Aaron Rodgers, and I don't know, in a new team and a new system at his age, working with Derek Carr, who struggles at what Jordy Nelson succeeds at, maybe that will cause Jordy Nelson maybe being only out there running the ball and drawing coverages, and that'll help Martavis Bryant. But Martavis Bryant is very much an outside guy as well, as is Amari Cooper, who we know is going to be the focal point of this offense. So I don't know exactly how they're going to get all three of these guys on the field. Maybe they'll rotate Jordy into the slot and have both these guys run wide, but I don't necessarily like Derek Carr's deep ball. So it's really hard for me to get a bearing on my thoughts on Martavis Bryant. We know he's very talented, but we also know he's a distraction in the locker room. I don't know if he'll even end up making the team, if I'm honest, because of that. But we'll see. They didn't invest very much in, and really, it's just 18th round, 7th round pick, 2018 draft, 7th round picks in a wide receiver. So there's not much behind them to be concerned of. Not terribly much at the tight end position either. They have Jordan Reed as their top tight end right now, which I'm not overly concerned about. Running backs, there's a lot of them. Not many of them are pass catchers, sure. So this is why when you get to double digits, you're looking for long shots and upside anyway. So I can get behind Martavis Bryant, but I will safely say if he was going just a round or two higher than this, I might honestly pass on him. So Jason, you're okay with that, obviously. If he was going in, let's say, the 8th round, would you still be excited for Martavis Bryant?
Yes, I still would. Like I said, I think that the cream rises to the top more often than not when you're talking about the receiver core. Amari Cooper is not good. I mean, he's already proven it. He's just not. He's too inconsistent. He can't get open. He can't catch the ball. He has more drops than catches sometimes in games. I think Martavis Bryant is a guy that is more of a consistent guy. He's been on a really, really good offense. He knows how to find openings and possibilities for himself. I get it. I understand. There's a lot of mouths to feed in this offense, but I think Martavis Bryant's going to end up being in that Crabtree role, but I think he's got a higher ceiling than Crabtree.
He's just not. He's not that type of route running possession receiver, though. That's Jordy more than anything.
I understand that, but Jordy, as we've said, Jordy is not that guy. I mean, he got that opportunity to be that guy last year when there was no Aaron Rodgers to throw him open.
But was
that's why? You know.
But was that Jordy, or was that the lack of Aaron Rodgers that we've seen? That was it Brett Hundley? Was it I don't know. Was it defenses that were just selling out to shut him down because they didn't think anything else would work? There's just so many questions. So I'm not necessarily ready to write off Jordy Nelson because I'm a big Jordy Nelson fan over the years.
I am too.
And I disagree that Amari Cooper stinks. I think there's not enough evidence to write him off completely yet. Clearly the coaching staff sees something because they've been saying how they want to rotate and surround the entire offense around him. He was very good his rookie and sophomore year, and that's why you and I were both very much predicting a big breakout year this past year, which obviously didn't happen. Mm-hmm. He had career lows across the board, except for in touchdowns where he had 7, which his previous high was 6 his rookie year. Now, to be fair, almost all of his production came in 2 games. Week 7 against the Chiefs, 210 yards and 2 touchdowns. Week 17, when nobody cares, he had 115 yards and a touchdown. So, that doesn't do any good either. And so, super boom bust. I have to imagine that he's going to do better than he did last year, so I think he's getting a lot of the volume. I just don't know how much I trust this offense to be on the field, and that's why he's polarizing. If he was there in the 8th, I would pass on him as what I think to be, at least to start the year, as the number 3 receiver. In the 10th, I might take a shot depending on what my team comp looks like. If I'm not hurting... Go ahead.
This is why he's in the 10th right now.
I agree.
This is why
completely.
Martavis Bryant is in the 10th, because everyone's having this same argument with themselves. Because they remember how good he was in Pittsburgh, and he was kind of the missing cog there for a while until Juju Smith-Schuster came along, and then he moved over to Oakland. The problem is in Oakland they've got an unproven receiver in Amari Cooper who is supposed to be the guy, who's supposed to be their savior, who has not been that guy, and then they've got Jordy Nelson, who apparently is a 1-quarterback receiver. Until he proves himself that he can be more than that he can play with Derek Carr and he can make things happen and get open and get the ball. I don't trust it. With Martavis Bryant, he's got more physical tools. I think he's got a higher upside in this particular offense. Jordy Nelson could be fantastic if he has the same kind of rapport with Carr, but we don't know that yet.
Well, I don't expect him to be fantastic. I would never put Carr on the same level as Aaron Rodgers, even remotely. But Derek Carr, I would put above Brett Hundley. So I mean, let's figure out where the line is, I guess, and we'll see, because we also don't know exactly how John Gruden and a Greg Olsen offense is going to work out. So it's just a lot of question marks.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and that's why I am hesitant, even more so than I would be if there were no changes at the coaching position in Oakland.
Well, let me ask you this. How high would you take Amari Cooper?
How high would I take Amari Cooper? That's a really, really good question, actually. Amari Cooper, I believe I've seen him going consistently in the 4th round, and at that point, he'd be my number 2 receiver, and I might take that upside probably by the 5th. If he's there in the 5th, I'd probably snatch him. I wouldn't feel great about it, but I'd know the upside. I'd be really happy in the 6th, but he wouldn't be there.
Right.
And that's kind of where he's polarizing, because I feel like some people are going to completely pass on him, and others might draft him high because they might see him as a post-hype sleeper. If he's there mid to late 5th, I would probably pull the trigger then, because then we're looking at a freaking Amari Cooper as my flex guy. Because of the way I draft, very rarely is he going to be anything. My 5th round going to be anything but a flex player. So, yeah, I feel comfortable with that. In the 4th, it would depend on team comp and team needs and what's going around him. I'll counter you. I'm assuming it's going to be much later. What's your when would you take him?
I wouldn't be comfortable taking him until the 7th round.
Wow,
honestly, he won't be there.
Holy hell!
Well, he won't be there.
And there we said polarizing. A lot of people.
Well, the bottom line is this. I mean, like we've said many, many times. Yes, he's got the upside, just like Julio Jones. Julio Jones has got the upside to be the best receiver in football, but he's not. He doesn't do it. He can't do it for some reason. The same kind of thing with Amari Cooper. He's got the ability to be a top 10 or even a top 5 wide receiver in this league, but he's not. So until he shows me he can do it, I'm not spending a lot of draft capital on this guy.
And that's completely fair, and I understand. And again, that's where he's going to be polarizing, because you're in your drafts, listeners out there. One of two things are going to happen. Like I said, people are going to grab him early, and they're going to take the name. They're going to assume with the new coaching and everything we've been hearing this offseason that he's going to work out and then buy in. Or they're going to say, no, this guy not only burned me, but he torched me last year. I mean, he was not startable. The only week, it was a week when we all, and I know it wasn't just us, it was many, many analysts around the industry said, no, guys, he's not startable. Bench him. Do not start him. The offseason narratives are gone. Don't play him. And then he went off and had the best game of his career, of his season, for sure, and then never got anywhere near that threshold again for the remainder of the year. So everybody was dropping him, trading him, benching him. He went out, had a great week. Then he started trying to acquire or play him, and then he never returned on that. So he's very polarizing. He burned a lot of people, so he might fall. Who knows? But again, if he falls in the 5th, 6th round, I will grab him then, because the ceiling is just too high to pass up at that point. The floor may be low, but the ceiling is incredibly high. And that's kind of my view on it. I'll take the gamble by that point. And we kind of got onto a whole Amari Cooper ramble while talking about Martavis Bryant, which is kind of fun. So with that, let's get out of here, I guess. Anything else you want to add, Jason? Excuse me, I had a hiccup.
That's fine.
Yep.
Like I said, guys, there's a lot of talent packed into these middle rounds, and even when it changes and people go up, people go down, there's still going to be a lot of talent packed in these middle rounds, and you want to look for that kind of stuff, and you want to pay attention, because it's going to change, but at the same time, whatever as it changes, it's still going to stay the same, like I said. What do you think, CJ? Oh, I forgot.
Oh, he's at
Camp Hope.
No, not Camp Hope. He's at, I'm trying to find a good one. He's at, what about Camp Crystal Lake? He'd never be found there.
I was just thinking that.
Friday the 13th, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
oh man,
that's probably a stereotype we shouldn't start talking about. So yeah, we'll move on. With that, we're out of here. Everyone, take care. We'll be back on Friday with a whole new topic, having some fun. CJ should be back, I think, and we'll see if he's even listening to the show to defend himself. That would be funny as well. He can tell us what camp he's actually been at, maybe. So yeah, we're out of here. Everyone, take care. Have a great week. We will see you on Friday. Bye.